G'day guys and welcome back to AdosTheGreat YouTube channel. So guys, in today's video I am going to be ranking all the coaches. I am going to be doing this in order, so it will be 1 through to 17. Technically, we've got God here, we've got Super Coach, we've got does his job, so he gets his job done. And then we've got Average, so they're okay, but they're not the best. And we've got Don't Rate him at all. So very excited to jump in and see how you guys would rank these NRL coaches. All right, so I don't know why we've got Bennett on here twice. I didn't create this list. I don't know who did. Shane Plum. Shane, you've stuffed up already. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Okay, good. At least you got every coach on here, hopefully. So number 1, the God tier coach, I am going Wayne Bennett. Now, I know some of you guys might disagree with this, and that's fine. You're all entitled to your opinions, but I think Wayne's just incredible. He's done it all. He's coached at international level. He's coached at state level. He's been successful in pretty much every tenure he's been with. Like, I understand he hasn't got a premiership for every club he's been to, but that would be insane. I just think he sets the benchmark for coaches. Just my opinion there. And if you guys disagree, feel free to let me know why. But yeah, I think Wayne definitely a God tier coach. All right, ranking in number 2, I'm going to put Craig Bellamy. Now, Bellamy obviously doesn't quite have the resume outside of clubland that Wayne does, but he's still an incredible coach. What he's been able to do for the Melbourne Storm over the last decade plus, or more than a decade, is crazy. That's insane, man. It is insane to think about. But yeah, what Bellamy's been able to do for the Melbourne Storm for over a decade now is just, it's insane. And it continues. Storm just will not fall out of the top 8. They are just a competitive team every single year, regardless of who they lose. It's been like that for years and years and years. And I would say that he deserves to be number 2 on this list. Number 3, I am going to go with Trent Robinson. Big reason why I'm going with Trent Robinson here is a bit like Bellamy. He's held the Roosters to a pretty high regard. I think the Roosters and Storm have been the most dominant teams over the last 10 to 15 years, and both those coaches, you know, they deserve all the credit in the world because they're a big reason why these teams are so successful. So I think Robinson is in 3rd is the right call there. All right, the next coach, I'm going Ivan Cleary. And now I know you guys are probably going to be like, hey man, look, Ivan, he's done it all with Penrith. They're going to if they make a grand final this year, that's their 5th grand final in a row. If they win it, it's their 4th premiership. Like, that is insane. We've not seen that for years. Completely agree. However, he's still a fairly fresh coach, realistically. Compared to, you know, your Bennetts or your Bellamy's, he's still a fairly fresh coach. And we've only seen this success recently with the Panthers. Now, I still think he is one of, if not the best current coaches in the NRL. I will say that right now, but I just can't put him on the tier that Bennett, Bellamy and Robinson are on. All right, next up, there's a few names we could go with here. We obviously, shout out to Brad Arthur. He's been a fantastic coach for Parramatta over the years, but it hasn't really led to success. We got Bennett there again. We're not going to rank Bennett again. Des Hasler's been a great coach as well. It's interesting to see how he will go with the Titans. Look, I am going to go Des Hasler in 5th. Now, he's had success at several clubs. I think he is a absolute legend of a coach. I think he deserves to be up there around the top 5. If you did have him lower, absolutely fine. You know, I wouldn't push back too hard, but I do think he should be up there around that super coach status, I guess you could say. All right, next up, again, there's a few few names. So Brad Arthur, again, you could give him a shout out there. Shane Flanigan's another one that's I probably wouldn't put him as a super coach, but definitely deserves a bit of a conversation starter. Same with Kevin Walters. Still a fairly fresh NRL coach there. Probably can't put him in super coach just yet. Or outside of that, look, I'm not really seeing too much more. I'm going to put... I think I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go Arthur. I think I'm going to go Brad Arthur. Parramatta have had some. Look, I know they haven't won a grand final, but they've been a pretty successful team over the last few years. To be honest, yes, you could make the argument that they haven't done it on the big stage, and his job is probably at risk this year if they do miss the finals again. And if that is the case, he probably moves down this list. But I've got to have him up around there, to be honest. Again, if you said that he should be lower, absolutely fine. I wouldn't push back too hard, but yeah, he's definitely not a top coach for me. All right, or top 5 coach, that is. I still think he is in the top 6. Next up, I am going to go with... I'm actually going to go Shane Flanigan. Look, he's had success with teams prior to St. George. I think this will be a good test for him. So I think he definitely deserves to be somewhere in the top 10, but I can't have him in my top 5 though. But I think he's a great coach. I think he will do wonders for the Dragons. I just, I can't put him any higher. And I can't really rate him any lower because he has been relatively successful in the past. All right, next up, I'm going to put in Walters here. Look, phenomenal job last year with the Broncos. The year before was a bit of a write-off. They were competitive for the most part, and then a little bit of... it was a little bit disappointing at the end of the year, but yeah, I think Walters deserves to be in the top 10 conversation at this point of time. But if you were to have him lower or higher, no, I wouldn't disagree. You can definitely twist my arm with that one. All right, next up we've got, I'm going to put Ricky Stuart there. I think he's far from average. I think he's well and truly above average. I just would rank Arthur, Flanigan and Walters slightly higher. Again, this might be a little bit disrespectful, and Raiders fans, let me know what you think about that one. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I think he needs to keep his cool sometimes because I do think that kind of reflects poorly on his team. But sometimes you can see where it's coming from. So yeah, I think Stuart in 9th is a fine pick there. All right, so we've got Todd Payton, Anthony Seibold, Ciraldo, Marshall, Webster, O'Brien, Fitzgibbon and Demetrio left. See, this is tough because Fitzgibbon definitely deserves a shout out for what he did with Cronulla. Same with Payton. He was phenomenal for the Cowboys. Webster was great for the Warriors, but I would probably... It's tough. I'm probably going to put Fitzgibbon... He'll round out my top 10. I think what he did with the Sharks was phenomenal. Yeah, finals footy wasn't the best, but he took them from a bottom 8 side to the top 4 in 2022, and then they backed it up with a finals, another final series, I guess, in 2023. So I think I've got to rank him a bit higher than your Paytons or your Websters. Webster is still fairly fresh there. So yeah, I'm going to put Fitzgibbon there. Next up, look, I'm going to put O'Brien. There. He'll be my 11th pick here. I think Adam O'Brien is a relatively good coach. Like if you'd asked me last year, I'd probably put him in don't rate him, especially with the whole Kalen Ponga situation and moving him to the halves. It was a horrible decision. But once he fixed it, he got his team right. They were a finals team, and they were a threat as well. They were a genuine threat. So I think Adam O'Brien has to be in the does his job part. Next up, I'm going to put Toddy Payton in does his job as well. You know, yeah, they were a bit disappointing last year, the Cowboys. There was a little bit of injury concerns and stuff, but for the most part, they probably should have been a finals team. They had the roster to do it. I think him and one more just slot into this one, and then we'll talk about the rest. So the final one for does his job, and this will be my 13th pick, is Andrew Webster for the Warriors. I thought what he did last year was incredible. Took him from 14th, I think, all the way up to the top 4. He's built a winning culture there. They love him there. And it's great to see a successful Warriors side. So I think Webster in does his job is a fine pick there. So Webster is number 13 on the list. All right, now we round out the final 4. So the bottom 4, in average, my first coach is going to be JasonDemetrio. I love Jason. I back him 110%. I think he is a great coach. Once Wayne Bennett left, you know, most sides go to crap after Bennett left, but the Rabbitohs still made it to a prelim final in 2022. Yeah, look, last year wasn't the best year. They started off extremely well. They looked amazing throughout the first sort of half of the season, and then after that it just plummeted. So I think he's got a little bit to work on. He's ranked 15th for me, so do not call me out for being biased, because ranking my team's coach this low, I think that's pretty fair, to be honest. Look, you guys might come out and disagree with this and say that Demetrio deserves to be, I don't know, in the top 12? I don't know. Up to you guys. But for me, he's got a bloody good squad under him. He really does. And I kind of expect a bit more from him. So, yeah, I think Demetrio definitely deserves a little bit of respect. He also deserves a little bit of criticism because, as I said, he's got a good team under him, but there's still a long way to go to turn what happened last year around and fight back into that top 8. All right, next up, I'm going with Ciraldo. Yeah, look, wasn't a great year for the Bulldogs. It was Ciraldo's first year with the club, so you got to give him a little bit of credit for that. I've given him average. I think that's fine. But yeah, look, I can't rate him any higher. I think this is a fair rating, if I'm being completely honest with you. I'm actually going to add a row below. We're going to make it light green. Not that one. I want to make that one yellow. And then this one light green. The reason I want to do this, right, is because I feel like this is unfair. This is unfair. I'm going to put an unknown one on because we haven't really seen a big sample size of Benji. I'm going to put him in unknown because I think that is the right thing to do. This Tigers side, they've scrapped the board. They're looking good. Their team list is actually really, really good. I really rate their forward pack. I think they have one of the most underrated packs in the entire NRL. But Benji hasn't really had... It hasn't been his club yet. And this year will be the first test for him. So obviously I can't rate him higher than Ciraldo, Demetrio, Webster. You know, I can't. But 16th, I think is fair, and I'll explain why in a second. I've had to add this one as unknown. Finally, Anthony Seibold. I apologise to the Seibold lovers out there. I do. I've met Anthony, especially living in Rockhampton. He's a really good bloke. He's a genuinely good bloke. But I honestly don't rate him as a coach. I don't rate him. He did well with the Rabbitohs. Credit to him for that. He did well with us. However, that squad that we had could have gone coachless, and I still think I still think they could have made the top 8. I really do. If they didn't have a coach, I still think they could have made the top 8. John Sutton, Sam Burgess, Greg Inglis, Adam Reynolds. I don't think Cleary was there at that point. He might have still been, but like so many talented players. It was incredible. The amount of superstars we had. We should have won the comp. We generally should have won the comp that year. So I don't rate him. He went to the Broncos. He was touted as this next big thing with the Broncos. That all fell apart. He went to Manly. I understand turbo injury wasn't great for them, but I'm telling you right now, if that was any other club, if that was Storm and they lost Munster and they went to crap, I guarantee you everybody would be coming out for Bellamy going, is he really the best coach or has he had the best players? That's just my opinion on that one. I've got to rate Seibold as don't rate him. He is the 17th ranked coach in my opinion. And if you guys do disagree, that is absolutely fine. Let me know why in the comments. But that is going to wrap it up for me today, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. And as always, I will see you in the next one. Thanks, legends.